as I'm looking at just where I am at this stage in my career too, like, what do I want to do next? Even
Yeah.
when my boss asks me that, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. Where do I take what all these years of experience and all the work that I've done to date? What the heck do I do with it? So, Coach Scott, how would you guide me if we were starting our journey? Like, what are some of the things that you would say to me as a good opportunity to kind of set the stage for our listeners to know, like, I'm introducing myself to my coach. I'm telling him
Yeah.
some of these
Sure. Yeah, if we're going to simulate
issues.
a
What
coaching,
would you do? Let's
yeah,
do it. Let's have a little fun with this.
welcome to How You Go There, a podcast that goes beyond traditional success stories to uncover the real strategies, skills, and turning points behind people who make things happen. Hosted by Scott Montgomery, author of How Did You Get Here? Lessons of Unconventional Success, business owner and ICF Certified Leadership Coach, alongside Linda Misegadis, a seasoned expert in business strategy, leadership development, and career transformation. Together, they bring sharp insights, real-world experience, and powerful storytelling to every episode. Listeners hear authentic conversations with professionals, leaders, and changemakers who've navigated big pivots, career breakthroughs, setbacks, and new opportunities. Subscribe now and join the next evolution of the journey, because this is how you go there. Good afternoon, Linda Misegadis. How are you?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's always nice to see you here and start to
Always great to see you.
get a chance to sort of dip into what we both really admire about our sort of passion projects and leadership and development of the next generation of leaders. And, we were talking before we started recording today about maybe taking a beat today and maybe getting a little into maybe what we're doing personally right now in the moment as a perspective. We had a guest that was coming in to talk about her new, her young son starting his career and everything. So she's postponed with us for a little while. She's got some stuff to do at home. So I thought, what if today we take a minute and just look at what we're doing around career development for ourselves? I know you said you had some things and some projects you were working on that might even tie back to some of the things that we do.
You mean this workbook right here?
Yes.
Absolutely.
We all need to take a minute to kind of reset. I think the reset was the word you used also in talking about this today. And what are we doing to sort of reset ourselves? This whole concept of leadership development and growth ebbs and flows for everyone. It's not a nonstop, constant badgering of oneself to get better, but rather you take a step back, you take it in, you apply a few things. What are you applying these days? Or what do you feel like you need to work on? Again, that might tie back to the companion guide, but also just sort of help our listeners and our participants here appreciate that even at our late stage in our careers, we take a step back. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that was a big part for me is it's just kind of reflecting a little bit. And, I've had some changes in my job. We had a person who left the team. And so I'm working through backfilling and all of that. It just kind of made me stop for a minute and think about reflecting on what am I doing. And then I was on a podcast and, we were asking each other questions.
We promote on that.
The Her Resources podcast. And we were just kind of talking through like, okay, well, what are you doing? And I said, listen, I just have to be fully transparent. I'm not doing half of these things that I'm telling everybody else to do, right? I'm like, if I'm just being honest about it, I needed to do a little self-reflection. But what it made me kind of remember is that we're all a work in progress, no matter what stage of our lives or career that we're in. And that there is a time when you have to kind of take a step back and level set and reset. And that was a big piece for me because I was kind of thinking, 15 years ago, I stepped into this company here that I work for now. And at that time, I was
15 years. Let's just take a minute.
15 years ago. I know
15
it's
years.
crazy. I mean, and, it's been one of the best journeys of my life. I've truly enjoyed the opportunities that it's presented and the learning moments. But what I started to think about is like, I literally jumped into the deep end of the pool when I came here because I came out of running payroll departments. I mean, that's what I had done my whole career, is really either starting in payroll and then growing in leadership in payroll and then leading those efforts. And so all of a sudden now I'm working for this company that sells software, and I'm working for the sales organization. And I'm like, I'm not a salesperson. I don't sell software. What am I doing? And so, but I just jumped in with both feet and have evolved. But through all of that time, I've never stopped once to think about how can I, and I mean, I know we tease about this, but how can I apply what you and I are talking about and what the foundation of what you wrote your book on? So thinking about
that's
things
really
like,
sweet. I want to, but I think you should actually go back for a second and realize that you actually did do that with me when we did your
that is a good point. Yes.
Your
yes. We did a little mini coaching. Yeah.
We
you
did
and
a
I
little
did some mini coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to complement what you're saying in that was also probably 4 years ago. Right?
It was. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that it's time for you to dust off that reset, and it feels like it's a little overdue, whereas you've been doing those resets throughout the years. We all have. But it is funny for you to say, it's maybe my turn to apply the things of the companion guide and some of the things we're preaching, right? So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Absolutely. No, I'm glad. Yeah. No, it's a great way to level set a little bit. And that is a big part of it. So, at any stage in your career, you need to establish goals for yourself, right? And you need to think about, what is your purpose? I have been reevaluating all of my relationships in my work and in my extended network, to think about, how do I really want to work within those relationships? Because, am I effectively using my network? Am I effectively using those relationships to help me in what my career aspirations are? And then sometimes, like, what are my career aspirations?
I was just going to ask you that question.
What am I doing?
How are you going there, and where are you going?
Yes, right? Absolutely. No, it's so true. It's like it's an opportunity to kind of take a step back and just do a reevaluation and apply, really the lessons in the How Did You Get Here? An Unconventional Guide to Success book that, I can say we joke about this, but I mean, it's all, in all seriousness, taking the different pieces of the workbook and how can I apply it. So I'm going to do a mini project, and I'm actually going to do the workbook. So
Wonderful.
I figure if I actually, take this and I apply it, especially right now, because I'm prepared to do a reset, I need to do the hard work, right? So otherwise I'm just out here blowing a lot of smoke at people, telling them all these things they're supposed to do and not representing it myself and what I'm trying to do. So.
Hey everyone, Scott Montgomery here from the How You Go There podcast, and we've got something special for you. We're on a mission to hit 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, and we want to celebrate by giving back to our amazing community of young leaders and future executives. So here's the deal. We're doing a giveaway. All you need to do to enter is 1, like this video, 2, subscribe to the channel, and 3, drop a comment below telling us your favorite episode of How You Go There. Once we hit 100 subscribers, we'll randomly pick a winner, and that person will get a signed copy of How Did You Get Here? Lessons of Unconventional Success, and the How You Go There Companion Guide. These books are packed with real-world insight for anyone looking to grow in leadership, pursue executive coaching, or just take the next steps in your journey. So if you're serious about leadership growth and learning from people who have done it their own way, now's your chance. To learn more, head on over to howyougothere.com. Well, I think you're representing it well. And, I think in this conversation, the balance of my experience in training can support what you're doing as well. And it does put value. I know we joke about peddling the book and we talk about this as a joke, but really I'm actually honored to hear you're going to do that. And I have been trained to coach you along through some of these things.
Yes.
And we have done some of that in the past. So it is not to feel imposter to be working with me and me with you to sort of promote leadership development from different perspectives. We've had a very solid relationship. You've coached me through my brother's passing 5 years ago loosely. not grieving and all of that. But my point is we help each other, we move things along. So I'm excited for you, and I'm excited you'll consider using the companion guide as a way to sort of start to reset. I think it is worth taking the time to do it. I think I've actually hired an intern whose job is to read my book and the companion guide and give me feedback. And it's been interesting for this person, and you will find maybe the same, that they're finding some of the workbook a little difficult because they hadn't excavated that part of their journey yet. And so what'll be helpful for you is to tap into the coaching I can offer you on maybe how to apply that, because we're so close in other ways in business.
Yes.
I'm honored to hear you say that, and I'm happy we get a chance to sort of clarify that as we take a beat on the journey of the career path of our youngers and moving into management.
Yeah.
But rather taking a look at ourselves too. So when you say that you're interested in that reset, what's making you feel like that? Where are you feeling that you need to set up?
That's a great question. I think our organization is going through a lot of changes. I'm going through a lot of changes, right? I'm in a different stage of my life. I'm trying to reprioritize what's important to me, what's important in my life. And that was something that I was even looking back on as well. One of my favorite people, Kristen Scroggin, had put a post out there about, she was describing the kind of a generational tie to us, but she was talking about how she put all of this effort into running this half marathon. She trained, she did all of this to the point, but she didn't enjoy the half marathon at all. It was a Disney half marathon. She injured her her IT band, and so she really and then she never ran again. One, because she injured herself to a place that it affected her ability to run, but also she didn't enjoy the journey at all, right?
Yeah.
So her ask was, if you were to reflect on what was a time for that. And so for me, I was thinking about when my mom was so sick and I started working for the company that I'm at today. And, I've always been, and part of that is my mother's fault, but I was raised very much about, you go after it, you go get it, you don't stop, you don't, it's all about overachieving and what can you do. So during that time, I was new to my company here and I was traveling 90% of the time.
Wow.
And I didn't refocus at all. So here I was trying to be with my mom and help her out, but she wasn't my priority. This job was, right, because I had to come in and prove myself.
Achieving is where it matters.
And yes, achievement. I got to show. And, I knew too, she'd be so proud of those achievements. But I missed out on all these opportunities with my mom. I missed out on the chance to ask her questions that I wish now I would have asked, time that I could have spent with her, things that I could have done differently as I was kind of reflecting back on that, because my priorities weren't aligned. I wasn't thinking through what was most important and how could I balance all of that. So that kind of triggered me thinking, as I'm looking at just where I am at this stage in my career too, what do I want to do next? Even when my boss asks me that, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. Where do I take all these years of experience and all the work that I've done to date? What the heck do I do with it? So, Coach Scott, how would you guide me if we were starting our journey? What are some of the things that you would say to me as a good opportunity to kind of set the stage for our listeners to know, I'm introducing myself to my coach. I'm telling him some of these
if we're going to simulate a coaching.
What would you do? Let's do it. Let's have a little fun with this.
With over a decade of experience, WorldGate LLC is your trusted partner in IT staffing, project management, and UKG solutions tailored for the public sector. We help government agencies and organizations navigate complex technology landscapes, implement effective workforce solutions, and build high-performing teams. From strategic staffing to seamless systems integrations, we bring the experience and reliability to execute, empower, and exceed for our customers. Staffing? Check. Project management? Check. Public sector and UKG solutions? Check. Experience you can trust. Visit www.worldgatellc.com today. Well, simulating a coaching conversation, which I also describe in the book, chapter 6, chapter 5, I think. Again, peddling is fun. But no, and honestly, these are good resources for you to use. But I actually started to hear you answer your own question in that, if I may reflect for you a little bit around the idea that, what do I do with all my experience? Well, isn't it ironic? You're actually doing something with your experience right now. And so you're on your Her Resources podcast, you're on this podcast. How are you going to get fulfillment out of that would be a great question. So ask yourself, and
I like that.
How am I going to feel like that is of value, right? So, and I think you and I do this together, because for me, when I wrote the book, I didn't love it's my story and I'm peddling my story, I'm promoting my story.
Right.
I really struggled with that even in our first versions of the podcast, but I was honest and transparent with you that I'm like, you know what, I feel like the companion guide's better because it moves the energy off of me and over.
Right. The book was cathartic, right? It was therapeutic. Yes. It was like something you
sort
needed
of organizing
to do.
my thoughts on these subjects.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Sort of simulating the coaching training, sort of getting some time in COVID and sort of some cathartic behaviors around, how my brother passed and the sensitivity of emotion and learning how to tap into that, right?
Yeah.
But I think, and also at that same time, you were doing a few things where you were interested in some of the tools a coach might use to help you self-assess.
Absolutely.
And your introversion, your sort of desire to be in the game but not actually play it, sort of go back to the hotel room.
Yeah.
You've been remarkable in changing those patterns. And it sounds to me like you're in the next pattern and people do that. They ebb and flow.
Thank you. That's a great reflection. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've been fun to watch in that, because it has been my pleasure and privilege to witness that and just ask a few questions that might spawn, which is one of the things I want to go back to and say in the book. We describe the difference between a consultant and an advisor and a coach and a therapist. Right?
Right.
So we are by no means suggesting therapy is what we're getting ready to dive into here a little bit. And the coaching is about leadership and development. There are different flavors of coaching.
Yeah.
But even myself, it was about 3 months ago, I was feeling very in an area emotionally and personally that I needed to dive into my younger self and find out why my patterns and triggers are lacking fulfillment in certain areas.
Right.
So I started to see a therapist, and that's been tremendously uplifting.
I'm so proud of you for doing that, but also sharing that with our listeners, because I think it's a level of vulnerability that sometimes people are afraid to say out loud. Like, I'm seeing a therapist because I need some help with someone who can help.
Yeah, and digging up that to kind of find the fulfillment that is what you're starting to tap into in your areas of work. The other piece that I really want to be clear on that for our listeners is there are different people to see for different things.
Yes,
and
good point.
I was feeling very emotional, very upset. I was oftentimes sort of like not as happy as I could be, and I kept moving towards my brother's death, and I kept moving towards my upbringing, and I kept moving towards that lack of fulfillment in that quadrant of my world. While my business was thriving and things were going good, I couldn't plug into it because I was still trapped here. And then I'm writing books that I don't want to talk about me. So it was this compilation of crazy, all first world. So I have a coach. I had a coach. I haven't really dove into my coaching much lately because I feel like I want to be trying it on more. And while that could help me, the style of my coach has shifted to the style of coaching that I need. Right. And I'm seeing a therapist enough that I don't take on more than you can chew, right?
Right. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
But I think it's important. I gave that context to say right back to you, you want to do something fulfilling is what I'm hearing you say, if I may be so bold. And you're finding that footing a little uneasy right now. So one of the things that was the aha moment for me and what you said was, what do I do with all this experience? So what if I held the mirror up and said to you as a coach, what do you want to do with all that experience?
And I love that. And that's the part of it, right? And that's exactly
It's not rhetorical, though.
So,
Let's do it right now. It's not rhetorical.
All right,
don't move that alone.
Don't deflect. Yes, that was good. Yeah, that's what the co-host does, Scott.
Yes. You give me one coaching question, I'll give it to you. And then you have to answer it.
Fair enough. I think to your point is, and maybe I just didn't recognize it until you said it, that is a big part of doing our podcast, which I'm so proud of, the Her Resources Podcast, is it does give me a platform in a different way to be able to share my experience and my, knowledge that I've gained over the years in these different environments. And so maybe that's a big part of it because I do like developing people. Like most of the people who come to work for me, I try to find that something in them that maybe they didn't see in themselves. Like I've had that experience through my career here at my current company, and then in my past life at other companies that I've worked for, is kind of helping not realizing it, but coaching and guiding people to their potential, right? Identifying what it is that they're really good at and helping guide them along this path. So maybe that's a piece of it. And so how can I take that? I'm doing it through the podcast, but then I also have
It's
my day
one-dimensional through the
job, right?
podcast, though. Well, so a
Yeah.
couple things our audience may not know, but I have context outside of our time together here on the podcast,
Yes.
obviously in work and in partnership of other things that we've explored in business together over the years. One of the things that I would suggest that comes up for me, if I may, is that when you're applying it to the folks that are in corporate, there may be a misguided assumption that they're authentic when really
Good point.
they
Yeah.
work for you.
Yep.
And
That's a good
working
point.
for you has to entertain what your vision is on what you think you're sharing with them in authenticity. They might think is instructional. So that's one thing that I would
Great
suggest
point.
that you may consider because I've watched it happen to you now for many, many years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those who you're mentoring in your payroll might not be what they would call mentoring or coaching, right? So you've got this
That's a really
platform.
great point. Yeah, no, I love that you said that because I actually was reading a book recently about how to be the boss how to be the boss you want to be and that others need you to be, or something like that. It's by Sabina Nawaz. But one of the things that I took away from that book that she had said was exactly what you're talking about there is that, that a lot of times, and how can you recognize the signs? So if your employees are saying, yes, yes, oh, and you're amazing, and any of the feedback, it's all, oh, you're wonderful. Oh, no, you don't need to change anything. And thank you so much. That may be disingenuous, but not for the wrong reasons. I mean,
Right,
to your
right, right,
point,
right.
they're on your payroll. They've got a side of that is like, well, if I tell her what I really think, is she going to then, hold it against me? Does it affect my performance? There are those things because that's human nature, right? To
Sure.
not completely trust who you're working for because you don't know if you're just completely transparent. How do they use that information?
Well,
That's a
as
really great point. Yeah.
Well, and saying that back, you might want to consider the idea that they're also in the same network of business that you live all day.
Yeah, that is
And
so
so
true.
the other thing that I may, and then now we're moving out of coaching because I'm coming up with solutioning ideas for you to
Yeah.
consider, right? So that's
Yeah.
advising, that's
Yeah.
partnering with you. That's not really coaching as much because I think the way I've interpreted coaching is self-discovery. And if I throw these
Sure.
ideas out, I'm doing them with permission. And we're not in a coaching conversation, but we're sort of displaying for folks the vulnerability we even have in
Yeah.
35 years into your career. But what I was going to say long of it is, there also might be something exciting for you to do it way outside the network of your employer. And I
That's
think
true.
what we're doing while that sort of satiated that and it developed, we're getting our stride. We kind of know what the deal is, and it's kind of
Yeah.
you and me, right? And then maybe a
Yep.
guest. That might be hitting its sort of excitement level for right now for you too.
True.
And
Yeah.
so we can change our platform up. We can do some unique things. We can bring our guests back and we can do that. But I would think that you might want to consider looking at a hobby of interest and getting really involved outside of work with your
Yeah.
ideas to mentor or lead. And I think knowing you that women could benefit really well from you. And I think if there's places, women's organizations that you could parlay and answer your own question of what do I do with all this, take it
Yeah.
to a place that is where other people are looking for it.
I love that. That's a great
And
idea.
and that's
Yeah.
fresh new people. It's not related to a paycheck. It's not going to get a yes or a no out of it.
Right. Yep.
And and if there's enough bandwidth for you to do that, it could even create opportunity that does move you in a change of career. You never know.
That's a really great point. No, I love all of that. Well, and I hope what this kind of emulates for our
Inspires.
listeners
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that one, this is a very genuine conversation between you and I. Like this isn't staged. This is us
Yeah. No
talking
idea we were going to
honestly
talk
and
about this.
transparently. Yeah, no, we took it this way. But what I hope that they take away from this is that this is what we mean when we're talking about coaching, advising, mentoring is like, that's what it's about, right?
And the
It's
toolkits.
not,
And the toolkits that help
and
you.
how important those are. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, and it's that's a real honest blessing that you've given me on that, because the How You Go There companion guide and this kind of conversation is 100% where we're getting better in our podcast, where we want to take it for our communities,
Yeah.
where we want to be fulfilling for other people and not just talking about it. And,
Right.
we've had opportunities because of people that have been on our podcast, and we have the idea and the notion to explore out into the real world. And we also have to work 8 to 5, or 9 to
Exactly. Yeah.
3 or 8 to 8. So balancing that might be your exploration. But you asked
Yeah.
a very pointed question that I want to remember for as you uncover this. And that is, what do I do with all this experience? You
Yeah.
had just
Yeah.
you had just started to go in there, and then we went back into tactical. But that's
Yeah.
it's really honest and pure and good to hear you say for our listeners,
Yeah.
especially the young ones, because we don't always know. But
Exactly.
I think you do practice what you preach. I think there's how many times you go to the refrigerator aspect of it, but you're always
That's
going
a
to go
good
to the
point.
refrigerator. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And maybe that is kind of a piece of that as I self-reflect, is also that's probably a little bit of that imposter syndrome that comes out, right? That makes me think, oh, I'm not practicing what I'm preaching, but I
Yeah.
have. It's just
You
I'm
have,
at
and
this
you
stage
are.
of my life, right? And so now
Yeah.
I'm at a reset time when I have to go, okay, Linda, where do you want to take this next? Where do you go from here?
Yeah.
Because even I think about in my career today, if I were to try to describe to somebody what I do at the company, I couldn't, because there is no job description for what I do at this organization, because it's many different hats with many different roles and responsibilities. And I think that was a big part of it too, for me to look at that and go, am I trying to do too much? Like, do I need
Mhm.
to scale that back a little bit and focus, to your point, on what am I really good at? And can I take those couple of things that I'm really good at and really grow those, instead of being, I used to describe myself as like the person, who was like plugging the hole in the dam. So every time there's a
Yeah.
hole, here's Linda, oh, I'll plug that hole, I'll plug that hole. Well, I can't be all of those things and be really good at it, right? So it's a good opportunity for me to reevaluate that. And I hope that for our listeners as well, that if you're in that ambiguous type of place in your career, in your life, as you're not quite sure, maybe it is taking a moment to do a little skills assessment of yourself and saying, you know what, those 3 or 4 things, or those one thing, or that 2 thing, these are things I'm really good at and I really like them. So
Mhm.
maybe I put all my focus and energy there and I dismiss these other things that I've been doing.
Well, and you don't dismiss them. You can table them or satiate them in different ways, right? So they're ever evolving. It never really changes. And that was a really nice way to put it for yourself. And I think as you explore those things and sort of fine tune what it is you want to be in your corporate, I would say I really admire what you want to do in your passion, which is help the next generation, self discovery, alleviate imposter syndrome for others, reflect on how you got here unconventionally as well. And those are
Yeah.
all really important things. It may be that you're with the change that's coming, you just redirect some of where the energy shifts, and you
That's a great,
prioritize.
great way to reframe it. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
like that, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, and I hope that what our audience takes away from this is how important it is to have this type of relationship with whoever it is that you're going to work with, from a coaching, mentoring, advising,
Yeah.
because I trust you. And so I'm going to be
Thank you.
vulnerable and transparent with you. And that's really important if you're going to move yourself along in the
Yeah.
process, right? Because if I don't trust you, or if I don't feel comfortable being vulnerable with you, then I'm going to do exactly what you were describing that the employees who work for you might be doing, which is just to smile and nod and say, thank you very much, or you're amazing and great. But I'm not going to do anything with any of the information that you're giving or providing to
Well,
me.
and as folks are looking at the different roles that they may need, whether it's a therapist or a leadership coach or an advisor or a consultant or any of those sort of add-ons that sort of empower people to really self-assess and look at themselves, don't be afraid, to your point. If it doesn't work, don't work with them. If you've changed, slowly
Yeah.
drop the ball. A friend of mine found that because I went to a therapist, they started seeing a therapist. I love my new therapist, and they've already fired their therapist. And
Exactly.
no hard
Yes.
feelings, no harm, no harm, no foul. I had a leadership coach that I worked well with, and I still think there's possibility and probability that we can work well together, but we've changed sort of the model a little bit. So I'm reevaluating, is that coach any good for me? Without discrediting the 15 years that we were together, that style of coaching isn't what I'm looking for anymore. And you're allowed to change those things.
Yeah.
And so just be really clear that when you're signing up for folks, look for the vulnerability, look for the connection. And if after a while it's not there, you're allowed to move along for the productivity of your own self.
I totally agree. And if I could kind of bring it all home and summarize for our listeners, I'm going to actually take some thoughts from a good friend of mine, Scott Montgomery.
Oh, I know
who
him.
says, yes, are you familiar with him?
Yes, you're promoting me a lot today. Thank you.
I know. This is a good episode for that.
Really nice.
Absolutely. But one of the things that you say is remember that self-discovery is a continuous journey, and that the strategies in the guide and just in general, whatever tools you're using are meant to build resilience and help you find your unique path to success. By embracing flexible planning, you'll trust yourself more and overcome challenges without feeling overwhelmed. And the goal is sustainable success. And I think that's what you and I just unpacked here today is you have experienced sustainable success throughout our lives and throughout our careers because we have been able to evolve and grow and self-reflect at different stages in our life to figure out how do we move ourselves along based on where I am right now in this moment, and how do I go where I'm trying to go? Because I already got here, but how do I go where I'm trying to get to? And I think
and just learning,
right?
And working with someone to figure out a direction to go. There's no way of predicting the future if you're ever going to get there either, but working with someone you trust and you want to work with, that's the beauty of our relationship. I hope that comes through for our listeners today and how our viewers,
me too.
Because I think that relationship is really important to share and demonstrate. And it comes in a lot of different flavors for folks. And we've had it in grief, we've had it in business, we've had it in partnership. And here we are talking about maybe when we hang up, you're going to need a coaching session, another I-360 assessment
that's right.
and sort of to unpack this without watching people, having people watch you do the whole thing. I'm down for it.
Absolutely. Well, and what I will commit to is as you and I are going through doing our, as we're doing our podcast, we'll do little check-ins, and I'll let people know how I'm coming along in our journey here and this next phase. And, my experience with the workbook. We'll talk about your intern's experience with the workbook.
Wonderful.
And I think that it just helps whether you choose to use this workbook or you're going to choose to use another workbook. It'll just really kind of
please use a workbook. Please use a workbook.
Please use this workbook, any workbook.
But a workbook.
Use something that'll help create some framing and guide you along. And we'd love to hear back from all of you what your experiences have been. But we'll share with you what our experiences are, and maybe that will help you understand the why behind utilizing tools and guides in your career.
Well, and if anyone out there has used the workbook, or they're interested or have read the book and want to jump on our podcast and give us a 15-minute interpretation from their lens, we would be happy to explore that with you and talk about getting you onto our podcast, because I think Linda and I are also always ever evolving, and we want this to be interactive for folks and take it to the next level. And we have all the time in the world to do this, or with your help and inputs, drive a new direction that could influence a bigger and broader audience for these kind of things. So please do reach out to us. You can go to our website at my website, sorry, not ours, you're not affiliated, but the podcast is www.howyougothere.com. And if we can, you want to email or whatever through those connections, we can respond to you and take it from there. You can also get the book, some paraphernalia, and the companion guide. But I would love to hear from folks. Yeah.
Me too. Absolutely. And feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. You can find us out there as well. And I'm always happy to have a conversation, like you said, Scott. The reason why we're doing this is to share with others. I mean, that's really the whole point.
I think we need to sign up for a fireside chat. So who out there's looking for it? You and I do good at those, remember?
We do. We
need to dust one of those off soon too.
I agree. That was
always
a great
good to see you, Linda.
Sure.
Thank you for everything.
Always great to see you. Yeah,
appreciate
it. Catch you next time for sure. So,
all right,
thanks everyone.
Thanks for listening to How You Go There podcast. If this sparks something for you, share it, review it, or connect with us at howyougothere.com. Keep leading, and we'll see you next time.